Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We're starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Okay, it is And Just Like That, episode 7, season 1. Sorry, I took it got real crazy in there. I'm sorry.
It's too many of these podcast scenes that we see where we're like, it's slowly, I think, morphing how we do our podcast. So we want more like sound effects and like funny voices. Like,
I mean,
it's a bad influence.
Yes, I would say we can all agree the best gig in television is Jim Cramer on CNBC with all those fucking buttons.
Yes, I think we can all agree that. We've all thought it. Everyone knows this. Everyone says this. I call 911 every day about this. I'm like, where's my soundboard?
Yes, everyone's like when CNN does those like TV retrospective specials that are like television. They once had Carol Burnett on them. The second thing they say is like, and they now have Jim Cramer.
And they now have Jim Cramer. I'm going to get you those soundboards where it's like that, where you can press things and it's like woke moment, trigger warning. And then it's actually going to be Jim Cramer's voice coming out of one of them.
Being like, buy low, sell high.
It's just an awkward AI version of Jim Cramer's voice. Buy low, sell high, Marina.
My God, that's the soundtrack to my wet dream.
Okay, we're going to talk about that after this recording because we need to unpack that.
We can't unpack that and this episode.
True. One trauma at a time.
One trauma at a time. Emily, what was your one word for this episode?
Can you go first? I didn't write it down. I've already forgotten. I have my one ready for the next one. You go first.
I wanted you to go because I had mine ready for the next one too, and not this one.
Yeah. This is okay. I promise we're gonna have a lot of things to talk about with this episode. It's just like maybe we should just get into it so then our audience can understand why neither of us have something ready for this one, even though we're ready for the next one.
Yeah, this one's just like a weird one. Well, this is And Just Like That, episode 7, titled Sex and the Widow.
Okay.
Black Widow, baby.
So.
Do you remember that Iggy Azalea song? The Black Widow song? Black Widow, baby.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I'm almost there. Yes, thank you. That helped.
Okay, this is my last tangent, then I promise we'll actually get into the episode, but I worked at a radio station during my last 2 years of college, like a top 40 radio station, and that was the summer of Iggy Azalea. Like Fancy came out, and that song Rude came out, and Black Widow came out. How do I know? Because I heard the same 5 songs from 4 a.m. until noon 3 times a week.
And if you're thinking, wow, gee, Marina, how did you come out of that horrifying experience so well adjusted and normal? She's now on a podcast where we're watching Just Like That backwards. So there's your answer.
Pray for me. Okay. We'll accept donations at the church coffer. It starts Carrie. We get a nice, lovely, seasonal, Notting Hill inspired montage of Carrie at the window, writing her book as we go through the seasons. And this melancholic song, Spring is Here, plays, and we see it shines and it snows and it shines again and it snows again. And at the end, Carrie looks satisfied that she has, we can assume, written her book about Big's death.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you how long, when you first watched this, how much time do you think passed?
Like a year.
Okay, because Che is going to tell us it's been 3 weeks.
You're right, it is 3 weeks, which is crazy.
Which is very funny.
You're like, how did it snow that much?
I know. in 3 weeks, and then it's also shining, and it's like also fall. It's like, you know, in Twilight where she breaks up with him, and then there's the famous montage where she's sitting out in there and it's like December,
Yes.
January, like all the months go by and like nothing happens. She's sitting in the chair. It's like that, except it's like Monday, Tuesday.
I'm like, good on her for banging this book out in 3 weeks, I guess. But like, what is in the global warming is going on in this universe? Because how is it snowing every other week? Like thick Hollywood snow.
Yeah.
And then like birds are chirping.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Look, March in the city is pretty crazy. I'll give it
that. Yeah, the first time I definitely was like, oh, a full year has passed. And then I was like, oh, wait, but the plots didn't like end. So I guess it didn't pass. Anyway, hilarious.
It's secretly the best joke of this episode.
So we then see that Carrie is meeting with her editor, and her editor's like, Carrie, your book is amazing. I have tear stains on the page. It's brutal, raw, and honest. But she says, I have one note, which is basically that your readers are women with no brain that no think. So they need to have an element of hope at the end of the book, because you wrote Sex in the City and you were cool and fun. And this book is a bummer. So you have to go on a date just to offer a glimmer of hope. She even says, like, it doesn't have to be a full chapter. It just needs to be an epilogue, 2 pages, 1 page, half a page. I'm like, what is the half a page epilogue? That's like, anyway, then I went on a date. He was rad. Date. Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah, exactly. And then all the women brains, all the women readers are like, wow, this was so inspiring. I'm so glad this half page was here.
I couldn't put the book down till that last half page, and now I can seize the day. And Carrie's miffed, of course. Why are we not surprised?
I mean, yeah. The amount of people that she works with in both her podcasting and now book career who keep telling her how to deal with her grief is astonishing to me.
I feel like it's Michael Patrick King and writers being like, we need to voice every single opinion somebody can have about grief in a physical vessel of a character. And it's like, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I see you did the homework.
Right.
But
you actually don't need everyone to be horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I actually don't need every single opinion. They kind of do the same thing with Rock, where it's like they have to voice every single opinion on trans kids and like what that means. And it's like, you didn't have to do every single one. You could have left some of those out.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't know which are the right ones, so they just say all of them.
Yeah, so they said throw it at the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
But we also won't look to see what sticks. We'll just write down everything anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the key part. We're not going to learn anything from this, but throw everything at them anyway.
Everything at them, exactly. Then we cut to, I would say, arguably the most random of all the side plots of any character we've seen, which is LTW and Charlotte are playing tennis.
Yeah, what happened here? We're going to get into it, but my one-word description for this plot line is what happened here.
Yeah, I just like, why is this so, it's given such weight.
I know, for no reason.
Such stakes. And you're like, did they just want to like get better at tennis? As like the actor wanted to get better at tennis? Yeah. And they're like, part of my contract is that I have a tennis scene and a tennis trainer so I can get good at tennis, because that's what it feels like.
It is. And her tennis outfit is cute. And I remember it from the documentary where she comes in with the like Gucci dress and they like trim it and they're like, it's a tennis dress. And I'm like, oh, that's cute that she gets to have the like Gucci tennis dress, whatever. That's the only positive thing I have to say about the plotline going forward. So I just wanted to get it out of the way.
Yeah. The outfits are cool, period. That's all we have to say. No, would that be so good? No. Basically, Charlotte and LTW meet up at tennis, and first we learn a bit of exposition importance here, which is that Carrie agreed to be an auction item at the school benefit. Then we find out that they are getting ready, gearing up to play these two old ladies at the tennis courts. And Eye of the Tiger plays, and we get a long montage.
It's really funny.
It's hilarious.
It's good. It's comedic.
And making fun of old ladies is peak humor.
It's really funny. It's good.
I think George Carlin said that once.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think Richard Pryor, too.
Yeah, all of them. All the greats.
They all got on PBS and they said, the secret to being funny? Old women doing sports.
Nothing is funnier.
Nothing. Farts? Doesn't even come close.
It's not even on the board.
Not even on the fucking board.
And Michael Patrick King was like, these are my heroes. These are my stand-up heroes.
That's the whole scene.
That's it. Yep, that's all we have to say.
The other funny thing I will add on is you brought up the documentary, and in the documentary they do show Kristen Davis training with a trainer, working really hard to get good at tennis. And you can tell that in half of these montage shots, she's not even hitting a ball.
Yeah.
Like they're just telling her to swing the racket around.
It, if anything, makes me a little sad for her because the actress was clearly having a good time and excited to actually do this well. And that's not what we got. So that sucks for her. I hope she had a nice time.
Well,
actually, you know what? I'm going to also say, if I were Kristen Davis and we're coming back for this reboot, Samantha's not around, Carrie, Sarah Jessica Parker is doing whatever the hell she wants, and Miranda is doing whatever the hell she wants. She's doing her own plot, etc., etc. If I had to come back for this show and basically kind of do nothing, I'm clearly an afterthought on this program, I'm going to walk into the writer's room and be like, I want to play tennis. Book me a tennis instructor so I can take my students super seriously. And then I get tennis lessons on HBO's dime. So the real winner of this episode is Kristen Davis. Thank you very much.
And we clap for her. Clap, 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 clap. I got nothing to say.
we're really trying with this one.
I just don't want to get to the next scene. That's Miranda and Steve. I want to stay in Tennis Island where things are dumb.
I just want to stay in Tennis Island.
Where things are dumb and we're having a good, jolly old time before we get to that shit show.
Let's bite the bullet and get it over with.
Okay, Lamaz.
Yep.
Okay. I want to start by saying, for our viewers out there, do yourself a favor, put on this episode, clock Miranda's hair, I should say, in every scene. Scene to scene, it is like hair with extensions, just her normal hair, wig, back to just her normal hair. It is insane.
And I'm going to say something mean now.
Oh, God.
Of the 3 different versions of her hair we see rotate throughout this episode, none of them are good.
None of them. Also because sometimes they fill in her eyebrows and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, what's going on?
The fill-in looks bad. And I don't say this about Cynthia Nixon. I'm not trying to disparage Cynthia Nixon in her appearance in any way. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pin the blame on the professionals and say that the hair and makeup team were not hair and makeuping. And they left her for dead.
They're not hair and makeuping. I don't know what's going on. Someone dropped the ball. Get it together.
So we get to Miranda and Steve, and they're at, an outdoor market. And Miranda's just berating him on the phone, being like, I told you to meet me by this fruit vegetable seller with the squash. And she's like, just come over here. Hurry up. and hangs up on him, and she's clearly flustered. I think at one point she also says, like, "Are your hearing aids in? Can you hear me?" Maybe you understand why people were mad.
Yeah, we're getting to the... I like that if there's anything to I mean, there's so much negativity, so I'm just going to try to put a positive spin on my hate. I like that I can now join the groups of people who were upset about the Steve thing. Like, you warned me about this. You told me about this in the second season when you were like, people were upset at how Steve was treated, whatever. And I kind of thought in this very like loose sense of like, oh, they were upset because she leaves to go with Che and they were upset at what happens to Steve. I really didn't appreciate the extent to how he's treated when he is here, and now I feel happy that I can join in on the mob because, like, justice for Steve. I have a pitchfork and a torch ready to go anytime he's on screen. And the minute I'm so triggered, anytime she makes some sort of comment about the hearing aids with such disdain dripping from her foot, I'm like, oh, the Bastille is getting stormed today.
The Bastille is getting... Put the barricade down, because, bitch, I'm coming.
I am... Those barricades are going down.
The way that they...
Do you hear the people sing?
Do you hear the people sing? One day more? No, today.
Yes, today. No, one day more is too much. We're going today.
24601, your ass.
Makes no sense, which makes that even funnier.
That's my prison number. Speak for yourself.
246, your ass.
246, your ass. Yeah, I think the thing about the whole thing that makes it so gross is that, like, the way that they stumble, trip, pour the chili, roll down a waterfall of themselves in being like, oh, Steve will just happen to be hard of hearing, but will also basically make it the reason why they break up.
Yeah, oh my God. Like, it just doesn't occur to any of them what they're doing. I think to your point, it's like, I don't think they realize what they're doing. I think they're like, let's find ways to show that this couple is like frustrated with each other, or that they're not having a sexy, flirty, fun time. Like, let's find ways to make this as unsexy and unpleasant as possible. And they came up with him having a hearing disability. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't think they realize what they're doing. It's like, it's horrifying to watch. It's horrifying to bear witness to. I think I'm really turning against Miranda, to be honest, because, like, the way she treats him is so villainous to me that this is hard. This is hard to come back. It doesn't help that her hair is constantly a mess.
It doesn't help. Listen. I'm selling my hair and teeth to join this revolution, okay?
My hair and teeth to whatever prostitute wants it. Take it. I'm going to war for Steve. You can have my teeth.
It's okay, because later he will fuck a Whole Foods woman and all this will be right.
And all this will be fine. He's not a victim.
He's not a victim. And also his hearing was restored.
And also we're never going to talk about that again.
LOL. Anyway, so she's screaming at him in a public place.
Yeah. And
Naya and Andre roll up.
Great. Just to cheer me up. just when this couldn't get worse. Andre's here.
Naya's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, God. And then she's like, I didn't want this to happen, but I guess you're meeting my husband. I'm like, if you didn't want this to happen, you would have run. And you should have run.
Yeah, it's
mistake number one.
Look, you've been there. I've been there. It's so easy to avoid someone at the farmer's market. Where are they?
They're at like a farmer's market. And
yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay, so Naya and Andre roll up and they meet and it's whatever. And then Andre's like, I gotta go check on that cheese shortage. What? And then they have a big, long makeout. And Miranda's like, this whole scene makes me so mad because Miranda's basically like, wow, like that was a big kiss. Like, you guys are hot and heavy. This woman has bared her soul to you about how her marriage is crumbling over the inability to have children. And you're like, well, at least you're getting boned because I'm not.
I know. It's like,
what?
This is a really inappropriate response. It's like, you know what's going on. I feel like I mean, thank you for bringing up the Whole Foods lady again, because I feel like now there's this theme going on with Miranda, or the way the writers write Miranda, or just the show, I don't know, where it's like sex equals good. So, like,
Yeah.
as long as someone's having sex, everything is good. Like, as long as Miranda's having sex with Che, that relationship must be so good. And as long as the fact that she's not having good sex with Steve, that relationship is dead in the water, which is an astonishingly shallow understanding of, like, sex and relationships for a franchise called Sex and the City.
It is insane.
Insane behavior.
And
an insane thing to say to someone who's, again, marriage is crumbling over these babies. Be like, whoo, well, at least someone's fucking, is like an insane thing to say.
And then it's followed up with Nia being like, well, I got my period. And it's just like so uncomfortable. I think that's the only word I could use to describe, is the fact that Miranda's being like, hamana, hamana, hamana. And Nia's like, I can't have children, and it happened again, and I don't know how to tell him. And you're like, I really have a hard time hurting people's feelings. Like, I am an all bark, like, reverse of a bite person. Okay. If I was Miranda being like, hamana, 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 and my friend was like, I got my period and it's ruining my marriage, I would have been like, I'm so sorry.
I would have melted into a puddle.
Can I have your address for a fruit basket? Like, I am so sorry.
I would be a puddle, and all that would be left on the floor is a bad-looking wig.
And some glued-on eyebrows.
And just, like, two little googly eyes. And then just, like, a puddle. And that's me.
It's just like Judge Doom at the end of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where it's like that melted silicone puddle and the two ping pong ball eyes. That'd have been exactly me.
Yeah. If we were Miranda in this situation, we would have shame. And so we would be that. Then the silicone puddle.
Then the worst part is it pivots another time because Steve shows up. And Steve's like, oh, they keep changing the market around, and I thought the veggies were over here, and things keep changing, and oh no, I left my wallet. I gotta go get my wallet. Ah! I mean, he has a completely... I mean, it makes me think, like, was the last time you went to this market like 6 years ago? I feel like if that was the context, I would understand. But, like, he does a kind of normal thing, which is, like, he got flustered. He has to go back for his wallet. The way that Miranda, with such disdain, turns, rolls her eyes, is like, that's my Steve.
It's so mean. And again, it's like, I know the writers are trying. We've talked about this before with Steve, where it's like the writers are trying really hard to show us that this marriage is quote unquote not good. It's not fun anymore. We're trying to like justify Miranda's affair and like reason for destroying this marriage, right? So like they keep trying to do it, and yet they show us things that are just not that bad. So that you and I are like, but I don't get it though. Like the ice cream thing is like, if it's boring, it's one thing, but it's like, this is normal. So like this thing, for example, is a great example. This isn't that bad. Like maybe it's a little annoying for Miranda, but it's like so sad to know that the writers wrote that thinking, yeah, this is going to get the audience on Miranda's side. It's like, that's so mean. What, he just left his wallet? Leave him alone. Also, this is the woman who later in season 2 is going to be like, oh, my phone. I don't know how to work my phone. It's so complicated now. My Motorola Android. Blah. And then she goes into this room, and then the cell phone goes off. And then everybody in the recording stops and looks at her, and she can't turn it off in time. And she's like, just so overwhelmed and old. You know what I mean? It's like, that is the same woman who is currently rolling her eyes at Steve leaving his wallet at the other food market stall. I just want to state that for the historical record.
Put it in there. Put it in there. The one thing I will give them is at least here they show that she's starting to be disdainful, as gross as it is. Because in the other scenes, they weren't even showing the disdain. I think because they were trying to say she's numb, but the show is not nuanced enough for this.
Yeah.
It's not nuanced enough for this.
And I'm not seeing that either, in that, like, because we suddenly dropped her alcoholism, I felt like that could have been the out here. And then now that she's not drinking anymore, now it's coming to the surface because she can't even pretend to be happy and enjoying herself with him anymore because she doesn't have the alcohol. So like they had it out there and they didn't take it.
And this show thinks it can win an Emmy without you.
I mean, how...
I mean, I'd like to see him try. Oh wait, I did. Where are they now?
Where are they?
Ditch.
Dead in a ditch.
Dead in a ditch.
2460 your ass.
2460 your ass. Well, that horrific scene ends. We've got 8 more to go. So Carrie meets with her editor.
Fit. This is broken.
Yeah, I need you to stop dying of whatever the prostitutes die of because I need you to be present in this raid.
Yeah, sorry. It's teeth. It's infection from all the teeth I ripped out.
I need your young blood to be able to pour in the streets. I don't have confidence in that line. Is that right?
It's definitely, yeah, you've definitely just seen Les Mis, and that's definitely correct.
I am like, I don't want to be on my own when he's beside me. I'm just killing it.
You're killing
it. Okay. Carrie meets with her editor to talk about the book covers. She is like, I don't like the book covers, even though the book covers look fine, but all of it is. And then she tries to be like, I actually think I wrote this book for myself and I don't want to come out with this book anymore. And the editor's like, ah, ha ha ha, cool, but Oprah could want it. It's not even Oprah wants it. She's like, but Oprah's people responded to my email and therefore they could be interested in your book. And Carrie's like, I'm back on board. And that's the power of Oprah.
Does Oprah ever feature in this again? Like, do we ever hear that the book was a hit with Oprah or no?
You know, I have no memory, but the fact that she had to shill it over at Vivant says enough.
Good point.
Oprah's not going to pick up Carrie Bradshaw's book. Come on.
She's like, they emailed me back, and the email is just like an out-of-office message.
Yeah, it's a bounce back. Like, we'll read this when we can. When our intern gets
due to high
mailbox.
volume.
Due to high volume. Enjoy this free sampling of Ozempic. Is that too touchy? Should I stop?
Political.
Ooh. That's
your sound effect. I'm gonna have to start collecting all these sound effects from you for your soundboard that I'm gonna make for you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the other. That's like when we get into a topic that's a little too topic. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
A hot topic that's a little too. Ooh. It's the ghost. Yeah,
it's the ghost of political discourse.
It's the ghost of the future I could have had as an MSNBC talking head that I didn't do, but could always go to.
Away.
What?
That you're squandering away with these controversial hot takes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I'm saying I could have made a living with controversial hot takes, but
I see. It's
the
ghost of the path not chosen. I see.
Yes, it's it's of the path not taken.
Yeah.
Because I chose the high ground to start this podcast instead.
Yeah, you have ethics.
Mm-hmm. I took journalism 101 in college. I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Charlotte, Miranda, and Carrie all meet up at dinner, plus Seema at the table. Oh. I wrote, Charlotte's excited at the prospect of Carrie going on a date because Carrie's basically telling the gals, I have to go on the date for my epilogue because Oprah is going to want it. And Charlotte's all like, yes, yes, yes. As we know, Charlotte's MO is to get everybody married at all times. So she's like, go, 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 go. Right. And then she's like, I'll introduce you to somebody at the benefit. And Carrie's like, no, I want to do it with a stranger. And then Seema's like, I already made a profile for you and I've already been shopping for guys for you. And Carrie's like, you staged me like an apartment, which truthfully, I would have killed for somebody to stage me in like an apartment. That's
you
what
mean
I
like
want.
In the biblical sense?
Yes, I do. In a biblical sense. Yes, absolutely. Dress me down and stage me up.
Stage me like an apartment. For sale.
He thrust open the window, his shirt billowing. I'll stage you like an apartment.
You say that, but The real estate smut that we're gonna write after this
Yeah,
is opening with that.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so she has gone ahead to make a dating profile and has already like done the thing, which like I think is kind of funny. I mean, I think it's kind of funny to do it when it's not asked of you. And you're just like, I'm gonna get this ready. Like I find that like very funny and kind of endearing to be like, let me go. But also there is something very lovely about the thought of like, if my friends made a profile of me, like what pictures would they use? You know what I mean? Like I'm actually really curious what this would look like if someone staged me like an apartment. It's actually such a fun idea.
I think this is arguably the best idea we've ever seen on this show. Round of applause. People cheering, screaming. Like, I feel like this has been the one original thing that they've come up with where it's like, that's actually fits in the character, is really cute, is what I want. Like, I would love to have a party where I just give my friends my phone and they just make my own my profile and I just get to
not
see
review my profile, make it
exactly. And then I get to understand that they also agree that I'm a reprehensible person.
Yeah. They handed it back and I'm like, this is just a troll. Like, this is a goblin. Is this what you think of me?
Who is this? It's like, do you ever hear that story about Dustin Hoffman when he was doing Tootsie and they were doing the makeup tests on him to look like a woman? And they were like, okay, like, here you go. And he's like, this is great. I look convincingly like a woman. Like, now make me pretty. And they're like, we can't do that. Like, this is it. Like, basically they were like, this is the prettiest we can make you. And he had a breakdown being like, how many women have I skipped over in my life because they weren't pretty? But they had as much emotional interiority as I did.
Oh my God, Marina.
And I feel like that this is ripe for that.
This is incredible. What? That anecdote alone is more thrilling than the 7 episodes of just like that we've been witness to so far. I would watch the shit out of Dustin Hoffman, 55 in New York, newly widowed, who is like, then goes through this experience and then is like, I need to start life anew. And I need to rethink my entire world perspective and my entire perspective on gender and women and interiority. Oh my God, I would eat that shit up. Are you kidding?
I mean, if he weren't canceled, we would pitch it to him tomorrow.
I know.
We would pitch it to him tomorrow. But I am going to drop the clip here of him crying about this.
She says, what are you saying? And I said, there's too many interesting women I have not had the experience to know in this life because I have been brainwashed. And that was never a comedy for me.
Thank you for this gift.
It's too fucking good.
And
anyway.
Just like that, I had a gender crisis.
Just like that, I realized that women be people.
It's literally that. And just like that, I realized women be people.
Anyway, so we say all this to say the show did a good one for once.
Okay. Yep. So that's definitely how that. That's definitely where that came from. That's what we're talking about.
That's the dismount that I made, and I kind of wobbled, but we got there.
We got there.
So Miranda and Carrie then are like talking after the dinner, and Carrie says something interesting where she's like, you know, because Miranda's like, do you think you'll never have sex again? And Carrie's like, thinking I won't have sex ever again is weird, but thinking I'll have sex with somebody who isn't big is also weird. So like, I don't know how to like balance these things in my mind, which is like an interesting thought experiment. Too bad we have to hear about Miranda's problems. Carrie's like, I don't want to be on the dating roller coaster. Like, it just seems too scary. And Miranda's like, I'm living for the dating roller coaster. I can't wait to get thrown up and down. And then we find out that Che has not responded to her DM from the last episode in 3 weeks, which is how we know that 3 weeks has passed. And she complains about how she has a dead sex life with Steve. She had one night of the best sex of her life, and now she's sentenced back to death. And then we get the beautiful Carrie Button being like, yeah, but my husband's actually dead.
Just like, again, unintentionally, very funny. It's just a very funny response to your friend telling you like a relatively mundane problem to be like, yeah, but
Yeah, but my husband's actually
corpse
dead.
is cold in the coffin that I just laid him in.
I can't look at a Peloton.
Without having a breakdown.
You could just try and kiss your husband once.
Yeah, exactly. At least you can kiss him. At least Steve isn't dead next to a Peloton.
Yeah. Then we get to Harry and Charlotte having midnight toast.
Why?
Such a hard pivot to be like, my sex life's dead. My husband's dead. Oh, Harry, you're getting a midnight toast. But I'd rather be here. I'd rather be on Toast Island.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Toast Island.
And basically, Harry's like, I saw Herbert, LTW's husband, on the subway. He's riding the subway to boost when he runs for mayor. Mayor, not comptroller. Call the cops.
No, we're not letting that go.
I would never let it go.
No.
Grudge City over here. I'm a Virgo, okay? Grudge City.
He settled for comptroller.
And then Harry's like, I want to do mixed doubles tennis. We're feeling excluded. Which, fine.
Okay.
It feels very writery where they're like, he just asks to be a part of it. You're like,
I don't know. Look, this tennis plot is gonna kill us. It's gonna kill us. It's gonna kill this podcast. What are we gonna do with it? There's nothing going on here. It's like, it's such a bizarre, like, nothing of a day for them. While everyone else is going through this marriage wrecking situations.
Yeah.
He's like, I ran into Herbert on the subway and I'm getting invited to doubles tennis. We're feeling excluded. You know, it just makes me feel insane.
Then we get to Naya and Andre. Oh, God. It's just like, you mentioned Twilight earlier, and it just is like, you know, when she's in the ballet theater and in the first movie and the evil vampire guy, James, like throws her against the wall and she like has all the glass shards that she has to pull out.
Oh, yeah. That's
this episode. It's just, that's my one word for this episode. Just circled all the way back to that. It's just one glass shard at a time.
Yikes. Just one glass shard at a time.
So we get to Naya and Andre, and they're driving. And this scene is one of the craziest scenes in the whole thing.
I think you should describe it first, and then maybe we can break it down. I don't know what to say is the thing, and I just don't know what to say.
Okay, top to bottom.
Okay.
They're driving. Andre's like, what do you want for dinner? Do you want Cuban food? She's like, see. Then, as they're driving, her texts are on like vocal, like text to speech or whatever in her car. And so suddenly a text from Miranda comes through that's, Naya, so sorry you are not pregnant. That's a direct quote. Naya, so sorry you are not pregnant. And then she like goes on to say other things. And Naya's like frantically trying to like close out of the text and drive at the same time, but she can't do it. And Andre's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so all this chaos with the car, and they are accelerating towards a crosswalk where there are two men pushing a baby stroller. And Andre's like, Naya, stop. And so she hard brakes the car in front of this couple in the stroller. Then we have a somewhat tenderish moment between Andre and Naya where Naya's like, sorry, I was going to tell you, but I just...
Wait, you skipped over the guy.
Well, isn't the guy after? Don't they like talk for 2 seconds?
No, you're right. You're sorry.
I would never forget the guy, okay? Because the guy is the creme.
I thought you
I
thought you erased him from your memory. Okay, I got it.
No.
Okay.
I'm working there. I'm building a weave to get there.
Sorry.
I'm working the loom, okay?
I mean to throw you off. I'm sorry.
So they have a tender scene where she's like, I was going to tell you, but I was too, scared that you would be hurt. And he's like, I can't believe you would tell a student before me, like all this tension. And then one of the dads that they almost hit at the crosswalk comes over, taps on the window of the car and is like, hey, lady, you almost hit us. And Naya's like, I'm sorry, calm down. And he's like, you calm down. You could have hit one of us. And then he just starts screaming on repeat, I have a toddler. I have a toddler. And then he like slowly backs away. And he's like, one last time from the crosswalk, I have a toddler. And then Naya jokingly turns to Andre and is like, he has a toddler. And they laugh about it.
I guess my first question, the man screaming, I have a toddler, is it supposed to be funny in the way that we would think it's funny? Do you know what I mean?
I think this is supposed to be a funny scene. I'm crying.
I think we should talk about tone whiplash. This is where I put my note on the script and says, please see me after class. And when a student comes in, I say, sit down. This is my screenwriting class. And I say, we're going to talk about tone. And we're going to talk about pacing and changing tone and tone whiplash. Because this has been a continued problem in the series. And I'm getting concerned. It's almost the end of term and we need to figure this out.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is what I would say if the student came to see me after class. Okay. I would say humor comes from truth. Things we find to be true are the things we find to be funny. What truth have you experienced of a middle-aged man screaming, I have a toddler at you in the middle of the street? I would understand, hey lady. I would understand, is my toddler okay? I would understand, oh, Jimmy B, no. All these things I would understand. But to go up to a woman and scream 3 times, I have a toddler, who's witnessed that?
Right. I think that's a good point where I'm like, it's the exaggeration of nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what is the like root, the seed of truth that is like being exaggerated here? So we can all like laugh at it and be like, haha, this is like relatable. It's heightened, it's exaggerated, but it's like a relatable, funny foundation that is like relatable, right? It's true. I don't know what the thing is here. And so then you get moments like this where I'm like, I feel like I know a joke is happening, but I feel like I'm left out of the joke.
Yes.
And that is the feeling. That is the preeminent feeling when watching this show, is that I'm being left out of some joke because their truths are not my truths.
Yes. And then I think that's when we get to your point about the tonal whiplash.
And then it goes back to serious. Because right after they chuckle about the toddler man, he's like, anyway. And then they just go back as if nothing happened.
It also just feels very forced. It feels like, oh, we're talking about babies and we just happen to almost crash into a baby and the guy just happens to be crazy about toddlers. It's like,
they clearly wanted a joke here. I think you're right. I think it's like they knew the scene needed to happen somehow and wanted it to be funnier and lighter. So they threw in this thing with that toddler man to make it sillier. But you can't just be like, you can't just like reference ziplining and think that it's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
I keep referencing old jokes of old episodes. I'm sorry for any listeners that have not listened to these previous episodes and don't know what I keep referencing. But like, it's like Carrie randomly being like, you'll never catch me ziplining, and them all laughing. And then you and I are like, why ziplining? It feels like it's just like you threw in a thing to be funny. But it was a upsetting moment. And then this crazy thing happens. And then they go back to the actual meat of the scene, the actual point of the scene, and we pretend that didn't happen.
I feel like sometimes these scenes feel like it's just the leftovers in the kitchen that they're trying to slam together last minute. Of like, they're like, oh, we have to get through all this, but we want to make it lighthearted, like to your point. And so we get this like horrific leftover sandwich that's like peanut butter and meat.
Ew.
Like, no one wants this. Well, that's how I feel. You can say eat all you want, but peanut butter and meat, that's what half of these scenes are. Just all protein, nothing else.
Okay. Jesus Christ.
Well, then we move on back to Carrie on the dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
She sees a man named Peter. His whole profile is just Peter, teacher, widower. Makes me sad. I wish people could be bigger than their widow status. But
speak on it.
He should be at WidowCon. WidowCon
he should be at WidowCon, actually.
The fact that he doesn't make a reappearance at WidowCon is dumb.
Wasted opportunity.
Wasted. Then we get to doubles tennis. pulling another
You wanna
glass
just move
shard
on to the
out.
next
Sorry.
scene, or-
You want to just move on? I'll go through it quickly. LTW and Herbert are one team. Charlotte and Harry are another team. Charlotte and Harry just like can't figure out the groove. LTW and Herbert, like, I guess play better, but LTW has like a bad arm. Like, it's just, this whole match is so confusing. But at one point, Harry falls over, and afterwards, he and Charlotte get into a big blowout fight where he says, "You pushed me over, and I deserve an apology because you pushed me." And she says, "I don't have to apologize. We're playing tennis. Tennis is an aggressive, competitive sport, and you should fucking suck it up." And he's like, "I just think you need to say sorry." And she's like, "You're driving me crazy." She's like at a full 12 screaming at him on the street. Like, "You're driving me crazy. I don't understand why you're like this. I'm not going to apologize. I'm playing tennis." And lo and behold, Herbert and LTW are watching this unfold. They do a little awkward wave, and Charlotte's like, "Great. Now we're that couple." And the scene ends.
I'm confused. Is it just that we just didn't have anything for Charlotte to do? And we just couldn't. I like that in season 2, sometimes when they don't have anything for Charlotte to do, we let Charlotte and Harry have fun. I don't know why we have this at all. It's such a weird, nothing argument. From what I know about Harry, it's not really in character for him to like harp so much about this. It's like very contrived in a way that also doesn't really make sense. And then like her reaction to it is so strong. You think it's like getting set up for Charlotte to then come out and be like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I'm actually mad about this other thing." You know what I mean? It feels like she's angry about something else.
Yes.
But no, it's just this. She's just screaming about the like, "Why are you making me apologize for whatever?" And that's just what they're upset about. It's so contrived and strange, and we don't go anywhere with it. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know let's cut this. Let's have more of the other people, and let's just have them. The tennis plot could have been like really silly and goofy. Like the two couples get way too competitive. And then like Charlotte and LTW, who are like buddies already at this point, decide to get like very competitive against their husbands or like against each other, or even like make it a big, silly, goofy sitcom-y thing. And I would have been totally fine with it. I don't know where this comes from. And we don't resolve it either.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into how it resolves, which it doesn't. But I totally agree, because I, in the back of my mind, was thinking, she's upset because she wants her LTW time and she doesn't want the husbands to join, which is like a totally safe and innocent plot. But they don't do that. And again, we'll get into how it resolves. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. I don't get where the joke is. And I feel like this should have been all funny or all tragic. Because this half and half leaves me feeling very confused about what I'm supposed to feel. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the horror show, we get to Miranda and Steve at home, and we get another horrific scene.
I'm so sad.
One of the most
sad that we have to talk about this.
Horrific scenes. It's funny. We watched episode 5 and 6, and I kind of was starting to think to myself, like, man, is season 1 better than season 2? Like, am I just misremembering details? Like, I feel like we didn't have a lot to say because like things were more or less okay. And then we got to this episode, and this episode was like, and just like that's top hits CD track of like the top hits of a lot of the worst scenes of the whole season are in this episode. Re the glass shards. So when this happened in this episode, I was like, oh God. I was like, and I remember why we're back in the dumpster. So
it is season 1 is the top hits of people dropping out, right? It's the top hits of all the notorious, Now that's what I call shit.
Classics like Finger Blast in the Kitchen, I've Got a Toddler, and
I've Got a Toddler.
Trying to reenact the sex scene you had in your affair with your husband, but not even letting him try, so it's just over.
So it's just mean. With hits like bullying people for hearing disabilities, Chucky on the subway,
pouring out a racist screed not only in class, but also at a security guard, just simply asking for ID. quitting alcohol in the matter of just pouring the bottles down the sink.
Oh my God. I remember when I was like, oh, okay, so this is the beginning of this journey. Like, this is the beginning of her getting sober. And you were like, oh, Emily.
Oh, Emily.
Anyway.
This scene. So basically, inspired by what Carrie said about her dead husband, Miranda decides, you know what? I'm going to give sex one last try. And instead of doing it in a measured,
it's a fair and reasonable expectation to set on your partner, is to be like, I'm going to try to initiate sex, and if it doesn't go well, everything is dead. Also, I'm not telling him that this test is happening.
Yeah, if it doesn't go well, our whole marriage is over with no conversation about it. Yeah. And second to that, not only does he have to accept the initiation, but he has to completely hit all the marks of a sex interaction I had with another person.
Yeah.
If and only if he's able to do that, our marriage can continue.
Yeah. If he does the Che Diaz cheat code correctly,
our marriage will unlock our marriage.
We can unlock the marriage.
Otherwise, the character dies and there's no way to revivify. You just start the game all over. So
you just install the Che Diaz DLC.
How to sex your partner good.
I hate it. Okay.
So Miranda tries to start something frisky with Steve, and first he's like, okay, let me send this text real quick. It's for work, which is important. He sends the text. He's like, wait a minute, it's 7 p.m. Like, Brady's about to walk in from school, like, or whatever. Like, are you sure you want to do this here and now? And she's like, yeah, let's just do it. Then he's like, let me wash my hands. And she's like disgusted. She's like, no, I want the raw tequila salt up there, just like Che. No. How dare you wash your hands?
Oh my God.
He attempts to finger her, which, as we've learned, they have not had sex in years. And then Miranda tries to get him to do the exact same moves Che does. So he gets him to like bend her over and put one hand on her breast. And he's like trying, poor guy, he's like asking, is this working? Do you like this? And Miranda's just like, uh-huh. And then she's like, actually, I'm done with you and this whole interaction. And I don't even want to try in a different setting. And I'm done with it. Goodbye.
Yeah.
You are the weakest
she
link.
Decides in this moment, well, I gave it a shot. And we, because she's going to describe this later. I tried everything. I tried my best. I really did. And that is, I think, what really turned me against Miranda and has put her in the doghouse. She saved Carrie from being in my doghouse, and now she's in the doghouse for me. Like, this is a villain. And she is a villain in the Shakespearean sense, and I will treat her as such. Because, it's so cruel. To your point, she's just asking him to do exactly the same exact moves that Che Diaz did. And that's not fair to begin with, but also on top of that, what the hell is he supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? Again, it's like they haven't had sex in multiple years. Like, he's very awkward and nervous and confused what's happening. And then she's like, forget it. And he just walks away.
It's like, yeah, I think that's the most upsetting thing. I mean, we said this a couple episodes back, and I'll just say it again. You needed to show me that they tried sex many times and every time was bad.
I think what's weird is the fact that it's like, it's kind of implied that she and Steve have just never even talked about that.
Right, exactly.
And if both people in the couple are cool with that, by the way, it's not, you don't have to be having sex all of the time. It's like, it's totally fine. I know this show is like, sex equals relationship is good. If both people are like, I'm actually not that interested in sex anymore, that's fine.
I also just feel like they could have had an open marriage. The thing that makes me mad about this whole thing is like, because they never really talked about it and they just went to divorce for the sake of the plot, they skipped over what could have been an interesting plot line, which is that they have an open marriage. Because it's clear that Steve still fucks, as we learn later when they correct that mistake. And Miranda wants to have sex with Che or whatever and like explore her sexuality. Like, that could have been a much more interesting plot than what we get, which is kind of like hasty, rushed, it's over, I tried, divorce, which makes it feel like, I don't know why they couldn't see why we, the audience, felt that Steve was so discarded when it so clearly is written that way.
Couldn't have said it better. It's exactly what it is.
Horror show.
It is a horror show, yeah.
Then we get to the other horrific scene. That's like my catchphrase of this whole podcast, and I have to say it every scene this episode. We get to a truly horrific scene where Carrie goes on her date with Peter, teacher, widower, and it's awkward. They both talk about their past spouses, and Carrie's like, we should get some more drinks, and he's like, yeah. And then it cuts to them like laughing hard, and it's clear that they're drunk, but they're having a good time. And then he just projectile vomits on the street, and that makes her projectile vomit on the street, and then they both projectile vomit on the street. Before we get into it, little behind the scenes for you. So in order to achieve this effect, they ran like a tube up, very Hollywood. They kind of run this tube up across the side of your face so that while you puke, the vomit actually comes out the tube and not your mouth. Yeah. And apparently it wasn't working. So Sarah Jessica Parker just put the puke fuel directly in her mouth. And many claim that part of it was her genuinely puking because of the puke fuel that she put in her mouth. Oh. Listen, you gotta do anything for the take for this high art.
I don't know what to say. Just upset.
Just mad.
And for HBO, like, you should not have to do that. Be like, we're doing this in post. We got the budget. I would never. This is why I'm not an actress. That is dedication that I, respect to Sarah Jessica Parker, I guess. And also I understand why this man never comes back on the show.
Yeah.
He's like, true. I don't want to be a part of this anymore, actually.
I mean, I'm biased in that I think throw up is funny. So.
I do not. I think it's because I'm too much of a baby. Like, it will make me nauseous.
It'll also make me nauseous too, but I don't know. There's something about it that makes me laugh. If somebody does something so hard that they vomit, it makes me laugh. What can I say? I'm 12. I'm a 12-year-old boy.
The concept of like, I'm throwing up, I'm crying, it's like, that is funny. And then to actually watch someone do it immediately makes me upset. But I hear you.
Shall we get to the benefit?
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's get this over with.
Flamaz. Okay. We get to the benefit. We see that Herbert and LTW are hosting the benefit at their home, and we have this long, prolonged bit where LTW is like incapable of having stage presence, despite the fact that she's a documentarian who goes on talk shows to like sell her shit. ? She doesn't know how to talk into a microphone, even though she's...
This is a weird bit, and again, doesn't have a resolution, but it is like... It feels like it's a setup for conflict between her and Herbert, but then it's not, and then later, Che is gonna make a joke about this. So, like, I'm like, is this a setup for conflict with her and Herbert, or is this supposed to be a funny bit that the audience finds really endearing? I don't understand what's going on.
Then we get to Carrie and the group. She tells them about the puke fest. Anthony says, you think that's bad? I shit myself on a date. And Carrie's basically like, well, when you shit yourself, was your husband dead? And Anthony's like, no. And then she's like, then I win. And I was starting to get so irritated at this dead husband thing, because I was like, you can't just... Oh, God.
You can't just say that to everyone who either shares a problem with you or tries to cheer you up, tries to commiserate with you. You can't just respond to everyone's life experience with, well, my husband's dead, so.
Then we get to Harry and Charlotte, and they're still bickering. And this is the second to last scene we see of them. So
is in this last scene?
The last scene is when they see... like LTW and Herbert arguing. But nothing's really said between the two of them. Okay. So this is the last word scene that they have, where basically they just continue to bicker. And then Charlotte ends on as though, because he's like, you've said sorry 8 times today. You said sorry to a woman who bumped into you. And then she goes on this like America Ferrera and Barbie monologue where she's like, well, women have to apologize all day long. And I'm not going to apologize for playing tennis well. And you know what Demi Lovato says? Sorry, not sorry. And that's the end of that plot.
First of all, a couple of things. One, I'm glad you made that comparison because I was like, do I make this comparison or am I inviting politiques into our podcast and I shouldn't say anything?
What was
but that
it?
is exactly
Woo!
what it Woo! It's exactly what it made me think of, where I was like, where the fuck did this come from? And also, like, your righteous anger is like not earned by what's happening. Number one. Number two, the only thing redeemable is her pronunciation of the word levato. Genuinely funny.
Too good.
3, the way she walks off after the sorry, not sorry, it made it made it feel like we're supposed to actually be on her side. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I feel like the writers thought this was a genuine moment that was like inspiring, in which case, no. No. Nothing good is happening here. I don't understand what she's so upset about. She just like has made up this thing to be angry about and is like, women say sorry all the time. If they thought about this speech first and then worked backwards and said we need to have a situation where she gets upset about this, I would believe it, because I'm like, the tripping at the tennis, the sorry, it's so contrived that it almost feels like maybe they wanted her to have this speech and then forced all this other bullshit to happen so that she can have a speech about women saying sorry too much, which is, I don't know that that's what happened, but it feels like that's what it's written as. Do you know what I mean?
It comes right the fuck out of nowhere. Yeah, no, I agree. Again, it's like we talked about it, but it felt like there's something else brewing here that would be about the husbands intruding on tennis or the competition of tennis.
Yeah.
The fact that it's like, I'm not apologizing, I don't know what I'm supposed to take away. And if they had wanted that to be the climactic part of this whole episode, which it is, because then it's over. They don't talk about it ever again. So that's it. I was kind of like, poor Harry. Like, he did get shoved and she didn't apologize.
I just don't know where we were supposed to go and supposed to land. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to get to the rest of this episode. So
we're almost there.
We're almost there. Hold me. Okay. Miranda and Carrie catch up. Miranda's like, as you said, I tried so hard and got so far. In the end, it doesn't even matter. Yeah.
She says that, actually. She's just burst into song.
Next scene. No.
Yep, we're done.
She's like, I tried to have sex with Steve, and we were 2 dead people having sex. It was terrible.
Walking Dead reference.
Yeah, she's like, no, she makes a Walking Dead reference that makes no sense. She's like, the only thing that would revive our marriage, the cast of Walking Dead. And I'm like, that's more dead people? Like, I was like, what?
Yeah, does not compute.
Does not compute.
Again, we've used this before, and we said last time that this phrase is very overused in pop culture, but very ChatGPT written.
Very.
You know what I mean? It's like, here's a reference to a property about dead things. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's very sort of AI logic that is like, I don't think you understand what you're saying, because that didn't compute.
That didn't track. And basically she implies to Carrie that like things aren't going well. Then from the sky, Che descends because Carrie booked Che to perform at this school benefit, but didn't think to follow up with Che like, hey, are you just going to leave my girl ghosted? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like weird because it's your boss, but you're also calling in a favor of a friend. So what is this relationship? Couldn't she have helped Miranda out? No. Got it.
Yeah. If my friend like had sex with my boss and then I know he's being ghosted by them, I wouldn't book the boss for a school
to
event.
Be at the benefit. That's the thing that gets me is like, why in the earth would you ever book Che for this? Like, why would you? That's just like, it's like, why would you set up this nightmare cocktail for yourself?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Miranda sees Che and is like, and runs right on over. Beeline straight for Che. Then at this moment, Carrie realizes, along with Anthony, that the widow man is at the function. And Carrie's like, you need to stalk him and make sure that he leaves and that I'm in the clear. And Anthony's like, what am I, Mossad? And then Carrie's like, my husband's dead. And finally, I was about to get so mad. And then the show saved its goddamn self for one goddamn time. Anthony goes, you get one more of those.
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony.
Like 8 jokes too late, but you know what? They did it. And that's all that matters.
Right.
Because I'm willing to try more than once, unlike some other people on this goddamn show. Cough, cough, Miranda. I'm willing to give a dead joke some life. Cough, cough, somebody else.
Call Marina the Walking Dead.
Hey, bum, 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 dab. Then Miranda and Chase see each other. Ah! Okay. Miranda and Chase see each other. And we get a hilarious, a truly, purely, genuinely hilarious interaction, which is that Miranda's basically kind of like cold, giving Che the cold shoulder. And Che's like, what's up? And Miranda's like, I DM'd you. And Che's like, well, when did you DM me? She's like, 3 whatevers ago, a long time ago. And Che like takes a deep sigh, like kind of like not rolls the eyes in an annoying way, but like takes this deep sigh. Is like, oh, Miranda, I've done a ton of weed. I'm crying. I'm back to crying. I've done a ton of weed. Like basically, like I don't read all my texts. Like you should have DM'd me again. And then we get into this horrific piece of gaslighting here where Che is like, you should have DM'd me again. Asking for what you want is hot. I'm like, double, triple texting someone is not asking for what you want.
Yeah. You should have tried harder. It would have been more attractive. It's such an insane thing to say to someone that you ghosted.
I've done a ton of weed. That's the new my husband's dead is I've done a ton of weed.
Again, with the Che is so clearly... I don't think anyone would have had such a problem, like such an outsized problem with Che Diaz if the show acknowledged that Che was just being a fuck person, as we've discussed, right? Like if the show was in on it and was like, yeah, Che is a jerk. Che is a bad partner. Che treats people horribly. Like, then I feel like people wouldn't have flipped out so much. I think what set people off was the fact that the show does not seem to be... The writers don't seem to agree with us about what the actual like text is saying. And we're going to get... This is a tease. We're going to get into this a lot in the next episode. But I really feel like it's like that is the problem. Is the show constantly tells us that Che is like an asshole. And yet all of the characters around Che act like that's not the case. And then the writers will come on the podcast and say that's not the case. And I think like that's what has driven people insane. It's certainly what's driven me insane.
Yes. A normal person looks at the scene and is like, Che is irresponsible and doesn't care about Miranda. Not that
Obviously.
Miranda is the love of their life.
Yeah.
Because she only sent one message and it got lost in the DMs. Like you didn't even give her your number.
Right, exactly. And we talked about this after they first had sex, right? When they were first in the kitchen and Che literally, while Miranda's like huffing and puffing and like pulling herself together, Che doesn't even stick around for that. Che's like, that was fun. DM me if you want to chill sometime. And then walks out without looking back. Like that in itself was such a like jackass exit. You know what I mean? It was like, that to me was like, oh, Che doesn't care about Miranda.
Yeah.
You know, Che is just sort of like being cool. And then Miranda kind of falls for it and DMs them and then obviously doesn't get a response. And you and I, you know, actual human beings are like, well, I know why, because Che doesn't give a shit. Yeah. And then Che comes back and is like, I've been smoking weed all the time. You and I as human beings know what that means. Miranda doesn't know what it means. And the writers don't seem to know what it means. It's so confusing. It's so confusing.
But Che then says, you want to get out of here? Tears. Then LTW and Herbert, as we said, they fight because Herbert's like, I have to leave early for a job thing. I don't know. It's not very clear. And LTW's like, you can't leave me here alone to do the auction. Like, I'm bad at this. And then they get into a screaming fight. And then Harry and Charlotte sees them and they're like, oh no, we're that couple. And it's a commentary on how all couples fight. That's what couples do. They fight. And that's normal, unless you're Miranda, in which case you're the Walking Dead.
I think you have said it better. I think you've nailed it. I think we should just skip to the end. We're done. Because there's nothing I can add. That you've summed up this episode and its problems so succinctly. Hats off to you. Round of applause for Marina, the Walking Dead.
Thank you. And just like the no. Got to push through a couple more things and then we can get to that cursed but blessed and just like that. We have to get to Carrie's auction date. So Carrie's being auctioned off at the auction and we get a hilarious... I genuinely made me laugh when Herbert comes out and is like, all right, our next date to auction is a date with sex writer Carrie Bradshaw. And she says, what makes me sound like I write porn? You're like, this was your job, though. You were a sex columnist. I get that, writer, columnist, whatever. Like, I get the joke they're trying to tell us, but it's just so funny that she's like, sex writer, like I write porn. And you're like, no, but kind of.
But you are supposed to be talking about this.
But you're adjacent to that.
Yeah.
And so she has a whole meltdown where she tells Charlotte, I said lunch date. And Charlotte's like, it's a lunch date. And she writes about relationships in a bigger way. And it just was like a DJ Khaled, you played yourself moment where like they're trying to tell us this is funny, but it's not funny because Carrie Bradshaw was a sex columnist. And then Sarah Jessica Parker didn't want to do that anymore. And so now she's this like relationships guru.
Yeah, who has like nothing of value to say anyway.
So Carrie gets humiliated. She gets brought up on stage. Charlotte bids on her, and then she bids on herself, and then the teacher widower bids on her because Anthony was too busy fucking a cater waiter to realize that he had not permanently left. Carrie,
what was he supposed to do?
I don't know. He was supposed to be Mossad. He was supposed to fucking tackle him to the ground and taser him and be like, get your little ass out of here, you teacher widower ass.
Teacher widower ass.
2460 your ass.
He's the Javert.
He's the Javert, but he's the best Javert because he doesn't really care.
Yeah, exactly. He's a deconstruction of Javert.
Exactly. So then Carrie and the teacher meet outside and she decides to go on another date. And then we cut to the horror show that is Miranda and Che in bed together. And Miranda's like, I'm in love with you. And Che says something very apt here that I wish they continued on with. But as we'll see in the next episode, they literally just reverse on itself, which is Che says, you're in love with the you are when you're with me, which would be the smart fuck person correct assessment of where you think we're going until we get to the next episode and you realize they just said that because they actually don't mean that. Big old shrug.
Again, yeah. No. I mean, I'm going to save it all for when we get to the next episode, but it's like the wheels are coming off the cart again. It's like, and just like that, once again, is turning into the surrealist drama that I first experienced where it tells you one thing and then gives you another and expects you to follow. It is anti-narrative and a deconstruction of logic in a way that I am in awe of.
Yeah. Tragic. It's just tragic. And it just goes to your earlier point about like having sex is good because Miranda's like, or you're just really good at sex.
God. Enough.
And then Carrie gets home and clearly sits down to write that epilogue final chapter about the glimmer of hope. And she says, in fact, and just like that, I found a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
I don't know how that relates to any of the other characters on the show, but
Yeah, because is she happy to be having a date with Mr. Puke Face that she wanted to
She seemed kind of not even that into it.
Yeah, so what's the glimmer of hope?
926401 your ass.
Wow, 9. We've added
I
a 9.
forgot it there for a minute. 24601 your ass. There we go. Okay, yeah.
There she is. Is that a Stanley Cup?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my New Year's resolution this year is to be a middle-aged mom.
Is that the target demo for Stanley Cups?
And middle school girls.
Okay, there it is.
I want to be a middle school girl. I didn't do it right the first time. We all know this.
So you're really okay.
So
you're in your midlife crisis now.
I'm gonna be like Drew Barrymore in Never Been Kissed when she goes back to the high school and like does high school right the second time. But yeah. I'm gonna go back to a middle school, which is even more predatory.
Yes. Which is even more predatory. And on that note, Marina, what's your
and just like that. Oh man, it's our usual segment, our high, our low, our top moment, our worst moment. I'll go first. I'll be generous this time. We'll start with the negative, which is our get them. God, I think the get them for me this time, I mean, it's got to be the Miranda Steve sex scene, just because it's painful to watch and it does nothing narratively. I'll watch painful things if it's apt, if it is good for the narrative, pushing the narrative forward. This didn't do that, and therefore it was just torture.
It was just pain.
Just pain. What was yours, Emily?
Mine is the market scene, and hijinks relating to his hearing aids and his wallet and that entire interaction. Everything about it. Don't want it. Don't want to ever see that again.
Fired. Now we go to our high, which is our Release the Kraken, which is going to be tough for me. It's got to be the You Get One More. Anthony.
That's a good one. Good pick.
Finally shutting down the dead husband card. It went on for 2 episodes. It should have been in 1 episode. Yeah. And that's
scene.
it.
God, every scene. Anyway, my Release the Kraken is Demi Lovato.
Lovato. It makes you think she's Italian for 2 seconds. You're like, wait, what?
Right. Demi Lovato.
Lovato. It's a coffee machine maker. Okay. I'm done harassing my own people. They don't deserve that. Well, this has been And Just Like That, Season 1, Episode 7. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to our pain, us pull out them glass shards, just like Bella in that dance studio in Twilight. We appreciate you. We appreciate your listen, your follow, your subscribe, your like, your high five, your compliments to your mom on the street. You're telling your boss about us. You telling everyone at your job, hospital, doctor's office, cemetery, I don't know, Walking Dead, all about us. We appreciate it. We hear you. We see you. And we thank you. This has been X, Y, and Me. Just kidding. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week on Wednesday, like we see you every Wednesday. Bye-bye.